Welcome back. Another news video. Another board here on what we're going to be covering in this one, because there's some news and there may or may not be a trade taking place today, maybe tomorrow or the next week. But it does look like we're definitely getting into the heart of trade season. So, being said, let me go ahead, grab my pen here. So, Ryan McDonagh, Elliot Friedman reporting that multiple sources have informed him that McDonagh is on the market. And because McDonagh has a no-trade clause, he will have final say in when he goes and where. And so Tampa Bay is trying to figure out how this is going to work. Now, he has a $6.75 million cap hit for the next 4 years. 33 years of age, played 71 games this year, 4 goals, 22 assists, 26 points. The offense isn't where it was a few years ago, but he's still elite defensively. And it'd be tough for Tampa Bay. Now, of course, they just re-signed Darren Radish, who's a defenseman. Don't mix him up with his brother, who's a forward and went to Chicago. And so Tampa Bay, this is purely cap from what I'm seeing, from what the rumors are. And so McDonagh, who's been excellent for them, there will definitely be teams that look at him, even with that cap hit being a little bit high. The one thing you have to ask yourself is, if a GM is dealing with Tampa Bay, knowing that they need to move the player for cap space, do you get a little bit extra out of them in regards to, helping them out with that than you would if it was a straight hockey deal? So McDonagh is going to go somewhere. Does him going back to the Rangers somehow work? He had a long time with the New York Rangers, and I'm just throwing that out there as just an example. You guys can let me know. Stupid hockey guy, he's not going back to the Rangers. That kind of thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know how all this works. If you've watched enough of my videos, probably about 4 or 5 before you just get the hang of it. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, Seattle. So the question of how Seattle's going to approach things. Seattle, of course, had a sort of a quiet first season in the NHL. Not a lot of wins, comparatively speaking, with what was expected. But they have a ton of cap space, which is good. Expansion team having cap space is excellent. And this summer they intend to spend some of that money. So for Seattle, a team that doesn't have a lot of guys expecting big raises and all that other fun stuff, they have good draft picks this year. The expectation is that they're going to pick somebody who might push for a roster spot this coming season. And so, we'll see how that all turns out. But they intend to be active in free agency. You've got the cap money, and if you spend it wisely, it can help to improve your team that much quicker. So for Seattle, they're going to be aggressive, apparently, when we get to free agency, and they have more money to make it work than other teams. So we shall see how much money they're willing to spend and who they're willing to spend that money on, and we'll find out in 13 days' time, which should be a fun one. Also, Shane Wright. So the reports that Wright's dropped. Clearly, Wright knows about the scouting reports and the discussions of whether or not he's too nice, whether or not he plays too passive of a game. Nobody's questioning his skill level. There hasn't been any question of his skill level or the fact that he could be an elite two-way forward in the NHL. But the concern being that willingness to go into the dirty areas to retrieve pucks and to really battle. That battle level was something I kept seeing in the scouting reports. But Wright himself, he has talked to Marty St. Louis. He has had conversations to many within the Montreal organization. He is fully confident that the Montreal Canadiens will be drafting him in a little less than a week's time, and that he will be a Montreal, or I guess it's exactly a week from today. Yeah, it's a week from today. That he will be getting drafted by Montreal. This is his belief. This is what he wants. Of course, it's not that long ago that he was quoted as saying that, I expect to be number 1. And I don't mind that. Again, that's where confidence, I think, is a good thing. I think for a goaltender to expect, for a player to expect to go, I'm getting ahead of myself. For a player to expect to go number 1 overall, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's good. And I think when a guy gets drafted second and he looks at the guy who got drafted first and says, I think I can do more than that guy. Again, I think that's a good thing. That while people say, look at the ego on this guy. Well, they all have egos. You think they get to be the number 1 draft pick by holding doors open for old ladies and feeding seals? Like, you've got to have a little bit of an ego or you're not going very far in the National Hockey League. You have to have that edge and it's a matter of some of them have too much of that edge, but in Wright's case, there's been some questions. So, we'll see where the chips fall. I do think that Montreal drafts him first overall. I think the pressure's high, and also he is a center, and centers will usually go higher than we expected. One recent example I would use is Barrett Hayton for the Arizona Coyotes. Not expected to go that high, went that high because he was a center, and the other players who were considered to be maybe better than him were not centers. So that was drafting by position. All right, and last items, and I say items because they're both Dallas related. Riley Tufte has signed a 1-year, 2-way deal, so he'll be staying in the Stars organization. And they're keeping Scott Wedgewood. So Holtby will go to unrestricted free agency. Wedgewood will be the other goaltender with Ottinger. I was really pretty confident it would not be Hudobin. So it'll be Wedgewood. He signed a 2-year extension worth $1 million per season, which means that Hudobin's pretty hefty cap hit gets buried in the minors. Some of that cap hit gets stripped away because he gets sent down to the minors. Not all of it. But, yeah, so for Dallas, I think they're setting goal for next year. Ottinger and Wedgewood, I'm completely comfortable with that. Just from what I saw of Wedgewood this year, both in Arizona and then in Dallas. He was very good in Dallas after they picked him up. And Wedgewood's funny that way. He can be very, very good with some teams and just iffy to downright bad in some of his stops. But with goaltenders, that can happen. So I have high hopes that Wedgewood and Otter can go out there and help Dallas get back into the playoffs again next year under a new coach. So we'll see how that works out. Let me know your thoughts. Where does McDonagh end up? And if McDonagh's been traded before this video goes live and you say, I'm predicting here, it doesn't count. Those don't count. The hockey gods see that and they frown upon that. So does my betting app. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.